That's what's happening right now. This is the Mike Smyth Show.
Good morning to you. This is Mike Smyth. It is budget day in Canada. Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland set to bring down her budget this afternoon at approximately 1 p.m. our time, but we're going to get you set up for the budget right now. It is our great wealth tax debate today. I've got two awesome guests standing by on this. Both sides of it for you. We'll have your calls on the open line after the break. Is it time to tax the rich in Canada? Now, the budget today widely expected to include an income tax hike on Canada's top wage earners. Now, which income tax bracket will get hit by a tax hike today? Have a listen to Chrystia Freeland here speaking the other day.
We remain absolutely committed to being there for hardworking middle-class Canadians, and we won't raise taxes on them.
Okay, so she will not raise taxes on the middle class, as you heard her say there. Widely expected, though, that the top class of wage earners will get hit by a tax increase today. This is going to set up a big tax fight in Canada potentially today. Have a listen to Pierre Poilievre here, the leader of the opposition Federal Conservative Party.
We believe that a dollar in the hands of the person who earned it is always more powerful than in the hands of the politician who taxed it.
All right, let's discuss it now. I got both sides for you. Derek O'Keefe, we're very pleased to welcome him back. Derek is a Vancouver writer and activist. You can find his work at Ricochet Media, where he's written on the need for a wealth tax in Canada. Derek, thanks for coming on.
My pleasure. Thank you, Michael.
Appreciate it. Chris Sims on the line. Chris is the Alberta Director of Canadian Taxpayers Federation. Chris opposes a wealth tax in Canada. Hiya, Chris.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Okay, thank you to both of you for doing this. Derek, let me go to you first. What are you hoping to see in this budget when it comes to income taxes? You want to see a tax hike on the top wage earners, right?
Well, the article I'd written, I believe you contacted me about, was with respect to wealth taxes in particular. I'm not holding my breath for the federal Liberals to introduce a serious wealth tax. This would be a surtax on the super rich. I don't expect much because the Liberals are a party of the rich, like the Conservatives. Of course, those are their financial backers and traditional base of support behind the scenes. This is a party of Bay Street. But I do think they're under pressure to do something, and it's clear that it's the super rich that should pay. And this idea has a long pedigree from Deuteronomy all the way to Donald Trump. When he first was running for president in 1995, a short-lived bid, he was proposing a 14% levy that would have raised $5.7 trillion, a one-time levy on all the billionaires, including himself, in the United States. So this is good politics. And because we live, as labor historian Jane McKelvey wrote in a note yesterday, we live in a vicious new gilded age. And it shouldn't be the working people who create wealth who bear the burden. It should be the super rich who have accumulated great fortunes, especially since the start of the pandemic. I think it's time to make the rich pay.
Chris, what do you think? Time to make the rich pay? Your thoughts?
Well, it's one of those things, right, where it just sounds great on the surface of it. I think I'm safe in saying I don't think a wealth tax would affect any of us on this call, probably not a lot of your listeners. But the problem with it is that it just doesn't work. So a few things. One, super uber duper wealthy people know where to put their money. They have teams of accountants and lawyers that will just move their money around, or they will just pull up stakes and leave altogether. France tried a wealth tax, and I forget exactly how he put it, but the French leader said something to the effect of, well, this didn't work. We turned into Cuba just without the sunshine. And it was the parliamentary budget officer. Now, these numbers were a couple of years back, but the parliamentary budget officer did the arithmetic on this stuff. And he said, okay, that sounds fine and good to have a wealth tax. The problem is, at the rate of spending, the Trudeau government would blow through that in a month. So what happens the other 11 months per year? So again, totally understand on the surface why it sounds great. Like, go grab the guy with the big bag of money and turn him upside down and shake him. The problem is he'll either just run away or this government will just blow through it too fast. So we would take the opposite view and say that they need to reduce taxes, especially on working people. And again, this is why we are begging and pleading this government to scrap the carbon tax and balance the budget.
Derek, what do you say to that?
I mean, well, the ultimate carbon tax is a wealth tax because the wealth are exponentially have a bigger carbon. The wealthy have an exponentially bigger carbon footprint, yachts, private jets, the lifestyle. If you want to tax polluters, you tax the super rich. The richest person in British Columbia, Jim Pattison, has a significant part of his fortune in the coal port, exporting thermal coal to foreign markets. A carbon tax. A real carbon tax would be to tax the rich, tax the polluters, tax the Jim Pattisons and the coal barons of the world. And there, I'm sort of, it's interesting to hear the Taxpayers Federation, the argument against. So we agree in principle, we should tax those with the most money. But the argument against it is just that the rich will try to avoid taxes. And that's an unfortunate view of the elite and sort of disparaging them. I mean, there is an organization called the Patriotic Millionaires. Well, no, it's not. It's not just a fact. In Norway, they increased the wealth tax slightly by a few percentages of a percentage point in 2022. And the rate of exit would have needed to be 15 times higher than it actually was to offset the increase in revenue. That is, millionaires did leave Norway, but not at a rate that actually decreased revenue to public coffers. And that's from a new book called Enough by Luke Hildyard. So people have studied this. And of course, the answer is not to not tax the rich. It's to crack down on tax evasion and to do things like have an exit tax if they do try to take their wealth out.
Okay, Chris, go ahead. What do you say to that argument that, I've heard this before, that if you crank up taxes too high on the wealthy, they're going to pack up and leave, and that maybe that hurts the economy if people are here not running businesses. Go ahead.
Well, that's exactly what happened in France. And so that is why I brought up France as an example. And it's, that's a major country. We can compare ourselves to it. I would also point out that it's two-pronged. One, it is, of course, the wealthy just leaving. Keep in mind that also the wealthiest among us are often job creators and innovators, right? They don't spend, I don't imagine, all of their time on their yacht by the pool, not doing anything. So then they would take away some of those jobs in innovations. But two, it's double-pronged. It's the spending. It's the spending. So the Trudeau government has pretty much doubled the debt. Like their spending is like a frat house level of discipline here. And so that's why we're saying you're just trying to scoop up this money in a bucket, but there's a huge hole in the bottom of it. So this is where we're saying is you can say all you want that you want to go after the people with all the money, but they're going to blow through it so fast that it won't achieve the results. Dr. Thomas Sowell, brilliant economist, said you should always ask three major questions. At what cost? Compared to what? And what hard data do you have to back this up? And so that is why we're saying, guys, a wealth tax wouldn't work.
Okay, Derek, quick response from you. What do you think about the rate of spending here? I mean, this government has been spending a ton here, and as we get closer to an election, maybe next year, it could even go up even higher. But is this level of spending in Canada sustainable?
Well, I think that the rich are living beyond our means. I mean, everybody knows Galen Weston is fine, and consumers that depend on his groceries are squeezed. I mean, this idea that the rich are going to flee, their wealth comes from Canadian workers and consumers in Canada. Is Jim Pattison going to pack up and leave? His coal port's not going anywhere. His forests that he owns aren't going anywhere. The loggers that make his money aren't going anywhere. And the consumers that spend at his grocery stores, that's where the wealth comes from. In terms of spending rates, I mean, we need more investment in public services. We need more investment in public transit. You don't like the carbon tax? Well, let's tax the billionaires, fund public transit. We can eliminate fares on public transit. There's a million things we could do, and we need more public investment, not less.
Okay, Chris, super quick response from you, and then we'll fit in some calls here. Go ahead.
I don't think I would love to have coffee with Derek for several hours and try to hash this out. But he mentioned, Galen Weston and Jim Pattison and then the logger. There are a handful of Galen Westons in Canada. There are so many thousands of the loggers that he just mentioned. It's the loggers and the mechanics and the truck drivers who are paying through the nose for things like the carbon tax, which is increasing their cost of living.
We're talking about the wealth tax. They're not going to be paying that. I know, but what you're saying,
so you're trying to then say, let's tax the wealthy so we can take that money from them and then give it to the logger. The logger doesn't want that money. He wants more of his or her money kept in his or her wallet.
Okay.
Why are we looking at
Workers
this
are
upside
creating
down?
the money in the first place. The workers are
Okay.
creating the value in the first place.
All right, guys, I'll jump in there. Perfect spot for our break here. Let's fit it in as we must do, and then we'll come back with more. It's our Tax the Rich debate this morning, getting set for your budget coming down this afternoon. Widely expected to include income tax hikes on the top wage earners in Canada. Derek O'Keefe and Chris Sims are my guests. Open the phone lines now. Phone me on this now. What do you think? Is it time to bring the tax hammer down on the wealthy and the top wage earners in Canada? You tell me your thoughts on it. 604-280-9898 is the number to call. 604-280-9898, star 9898 on your cell. Derek O'Keefe, Chris Sims are my guests. This is Mike Smyth, back with your calls.
At Blue Shore Financial, we know your financial goals are as unique as you are. Our team of expert advisors will work with you to create a personalized plan to grow and protect your wealth. From financial planning to full-service personal and business banking, wealth management, investments, and mortgages, we have everything you need to achieve your goals. Enjoy a premium banking experience with attentive service inside our tranquil branches, virtually or when you call. Achieve financial wellness at Blue Shore Financial.
Creating a room in the attic is a great idea.
Ah! Unless you have squatters. Uninvited animals in your home? Contact Westside Pest Control for fast, safe, and effective removal. Now serving communities from Whistler to Chilliwack.
It's too hard. I can't do it. It'll take too long. It's too expensive. I hate to say it, but you're right. If you don't use end-of-the-roll flooring centers, we make it easy and super affordable to update your floors. Plus, we're a stocking dealer, meaning it won't take forever to get them done. Use our visualizer at endoftheroll.com to see just how easy it is to see the results. Estimates, installations, flexible payments, and tons of choice. It's easy. Find out how easy during the Flooring Made Easy event at End of the Roll Flooring Centers. Let's get flooring.
Savor the sounds of summer at the PNE Fair's Summer Night Concerts, now hosted on the Chevrolet stage at the Pacific Coliseum, featuring Amanda Marshall, with Serena Ryder, John Fogerty, the Pointer Sisters, with the Commodores, Blue Rodeo, and Bare Naked Ladies. The PNE Fair, August 17th to September 2nd. Tickets on sale now and include admission to the fair.
Hi, I'm Bob at Drain Rock Industries. When you need a video inspection of the drainage system for real estate purchase and sales or drainage replacements and upgrades, call 604-582-7522. Drain Rock Industries, your family-owned drainage specialist.
We all believe in the possibilities of tomorrow. And at Easy Financial, we're here to help you every step of the way. If the banks aren't an option, we can help get you approved for a loan in as little as 10 minutes. And with our personal, home equity, and auto loans, you can choose the loan that's right for you, so you can start rebuilding your credit for a better tomorrow. Apply today without affecting your credit score at easyfinancial.com or at over 400 locations, and find out how much you can qualify for. Easy Financial. Better tomorrows.
Hey, it's Alan Cross from the Ongoing History of New Music podcast. Your next favorite podcast could be waiting for you right now on the Curious Cast podcast network, like Issue Zero, superheroes, supervillains, sci-fi, and more. Join host Fred Kennedy on an epic adventure into the real stories behind the characters, movies, and comics we love. From music to history to true crime and more. It's all waiting for you now for free at curiouscast.ca and wherever you find your favorite podcasts.
Here's a quick tip from SunQuest Mobility. Choose a toilet seat riser that considers the user's height, weight, and mobility, and the height and shape of the toilet to ensure a safe fit.
Now, the Mike Smyth Show continues.
All right, getting you set for the federal budget this afternoon. It's our Tax the Rich debate. Derek O'Keefe, Chris Sims, lots of calls. Scott in Surrey. Hi, Scott. Go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Good morning to you, Mike, and your guests. What I would refer everybody to is a thing called the Laffer curve. The Laffer curve was a formula devised that shows at what point taxes stop working, okay? If you tax at 0%, you get zero revenue. You tax at 100%, you get zero revenue. So there's a thing in between there. And we are basically, we've already hit the Laffer curve, right? We're hearing it every day. And the rich are going to turn around and they will move their money. They have the ability to do that. End of story. So okay. I would suggest
Thank you for the call. Let's get Derek's response on that. Derek, I guess it's probably easier than ever to move your money around the world. Your thoughts?
Well, sure. I mean, the rich could already go to lower tax jurisdictions. Gerard Depardieu famously moved to Russia. He didn't want to pay his taxes, contribute to French society. I mean, we can all, but I think many, even of the super rich, was going to mention earlier, there's an organization called the Patriotic Millionaires, and Erica Payne, one of the founders, spoke last month at the UN and said, if we don't address the twin crises of wealth concentration and inequality, we'll see a wholesale dismantling and death of liberal democracy, justice, and basic human freedom. That's a millionaire who is banded together with other millionaires arguing that the super rich should be taxed. So, of course, there's jurisdictional issues, there's chasing the money, there's cleaning up tax havens, there's all that work to do. But if the rich in Canada want to move to a low tax jurisdiction, they can already do so. And I think this notion that that everyone's going to leave on a very marginal increase in the tax rate is just false. We have an example in BC. In 2018, the school tax was brought in. Yeah,
Chris, go ahead. Chris, go ahead. Your thoughts.
Again, we share the concern about the lack of democracy and creeping authoritarianism, but we would think that would come from things like bigger government, more control, higher taxes. And we're urging the opposite. We want much, much smaller, more accountable government and lower taxes, because the vast majority of us are those working people and the middle class, even though the minister responsible couldn't define it herself. There's way more of us than there are for that little tiny handful of rich people. And we just don't understand why there's this fixation on trying to squeeze more money out of that very mobile, tiny handful of rich people, instead of reducing taxes and reducing spending for the rest of us and getting more fiscal responsibility in Ottawa. Again, they could balance the budget. The Trudeau government could balance the budget if they simply referred back to 2021 spending levels. That would be so simple.
Squeeze another call in. Scott in Surrey. Hey, Scott, go ahead. Brent in Kelowna. Hi, Brent.
Hey, Mike, thanks for taking my call. Yeah, you know what, Mike? This is socialism 101. This is what happens when you have activists running your country. Let's be real here. Like Kevin O'Leary said, we could be the richest country in the world, but we're run by morons. And the truth is, the rich will leave this country. Why would they do business here if they're, these are the most successful people in the country that employ so many people. If they're going to get taxed for being successful, they're going to go to a country that embraces someone who's successful, not the other way around. This is so backwards.
Okay, Derek, go ahead. Your response to him.
Well, I just want to say we have an example of a surtax on the relatively wealthy with the school tax in BC, which is implemented in 2018. It's a 0.2% surtax on the value of property over $3 million, and then a 0.4% increase on the value over $4 million. There was a big hue and cry over that, but it neither crashed the housing market nor forced a mass exodus of people from their homes. It raised additional money from those who had greater financial assets and abilities to pay. We've always had a progressive tax system with marginal tax rates. During the highest growth decades, from the 50s to the 70s, we had tax rates upwards of 60%, the highest marginal tax rate, closer to World War II. During World War II and in the years after, we had top marginal tax rates of over 90% in both the United States and Canada. Did the leaders of industry flee the country in those years? No, they contributed to the war effort in the case of Canada and the United States. And, there will always be, there is an entire industry for wealthy people to hide their money from the tax, from the public tax collector.
Chris,
and we need to crack down on that, not appease it.
Just about out of time. Chris, you get the last word. You got 30 seconds here. Go ahead.
Again, just the rate of spending and the utter lack of fiscal discipline here is shocking, both in Ottawa and in Victoria. Very soon, our debt interest charges, meaning what we have to pay on our trillion-dollar-plus debt, is going to outstrip what we spend on health care in Canada. Further, British Columbia has absolutely no business running a $6 or $7 billion deficit. They're literally sitting on so much wealth. The lack of fiscal discipline is shocking here.
Guys, thank you for a really great conversation. We got more calls coming in. I would love to do it again. Thanks for your time today. Derek O'Keefe, Ricochet Media. That's where you can find his work. Chris Sims, Canadian Taxpayers Federation. My great thanks to both of them. Take a break here, bottom of the hour. When we come back, the viral rant about Canada by conservative talk show host Bill Maher. We'll play some of the highlights for you. Great guest on it next. Don't go anywhere.